they're looking for a Superman, but they'll be happy with Clark Kent. Clark Kent. I think it is name Clark Kent. Whoever Superman is before he was Superman. Welcome to Debt Free in IT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested. I think you come to the right place. So today's episode is about gatekeeping in IT. So when I talk about gatekeeping, I'm referring to the folks that's holding on to knowledge, not wanting to share tools or not wanting to help you grow because they may just be scared that you'll pass them up. Or maybe they'll become obsolete and then their organization may see them as not needed. I'm pretty sure you've all had this one friend or coworker that fits this description. So one thing I've learned is that sometimes the very thing they try to block you from, maybe that's a certain technology that they're not willing to share. You know, they may be the one that's managing it or the one that's supporting it, mainly in your team. And, you know, they're not willing to get you trained up on it in case they're out for some reason, then you can handle their role. So sometimes that very thing that they try to keep away from you, sometimes that's the thing that's going to help you stand out. So here's how to break through gatekeeping in IT and keep it moving. So let's get to it. So the first thing I want to look at is some examples of gatekeeping in IT. So for those of you that may be in that transition phase or trying to get into IT, you may have experienced this already. So, and that's downplaying the IT industry. So this is where you're talking to someone who's already working into IT or already working in tech. And basically, they're telling you that it's not worth it for you to try to get into it. Or maybe they're telling you that the pay is bad. Or maybe they're telling you, oh, AI is going to take over the whole IT industry, so ain't no need for you to try to get into it. A lot of times they may say that because sometimes that person may often see you as competition. And then also they know that, okay, if you get into it, then that's less opportunity for them. So some people think that way, where my thought process in this is that it's enough to eat out here for everyone. So, you know, so everyone can get into the industry. You know, it just takes that hard work and dedication. So a lot of times, you know, they may say it's not worth it, but then that's all depending on who is not worth it to. So if you're taking someone who's already making six figures and they're trying to move up to make more, then they may say, oh, I'm at this point where I can't move up anymore, or I can't seem to get another pay raise. So it may not be worth it to them. But then for someone that's just coming in, let's say if the job you at now is making $40,000 and you transition into tech and you're getting started at $60,000, $70,000, then in my eyes, it's totally worth it. So a lot of times you'll hear people reflect on this because they'll tell you that, oh, it's not worth it anymore because they already been in it for some years and they may be burnt out. You know, it's a lot of reasons that go into it, but they're not thinking of it from your point of view where you're trying to get into it. They're not thinking of it of, okay, you get into it, this is going to be a $25,000, $30,000 increase. So a lot of times you'll hear this downplaying the IT industry. This is one example of gatekeeping that I've experienced it. I've seen others do it. You know, you can talk to plenty of people depending on who you talk to. They may tell you some of these same reasons that it's not worth it or the pay is bad. And a lot of times I think it's just because they're not looking at it from your point of view, or sometimes if you're in the same city going for the same type of roles, you could necessarily be their competition. So my third example of gatekeeping in IT, that's refusing to cross-train. So this ties back to the second example of having restriction of different tools and access. But basically this is when a team member has this one application, or maybe they have a couple of applications that they support, but they don't want to cross-train anyone else on the team on that certain application. And a lot of times when you dig down to it, that certain application, a lot of times it's one of the main applications for an organization, or one of the main applications that an organization uses. So let's say if it's something like an Active Directory, or let's say if it's something like SCCM. So something like that, like SCCM, can be used for plenty of things, but most of the time it's used for sending out updates to different PCs on the network. Now, I know Microsoft may have updated or upgraded it to Intune, but basically the same premise where you can support all your devices from this one application. You know, you can push out updates. Also, you can use SCCM to image PCs. So just having that knowledge of that application is very valuable at any organization you go to. So if someone has the training for this application, and let's say that they want to make sure that they remain valuable, they remain needed to that organization. So a lot of times that gives them the reason to not want to get someone else trained up on it, because if I get someone else trained up on it, that means that basically I'm not really needed as much, because if they get rid of me, they got this secondary person who I done trained up on everything. So a lot of times you will see this form of gatekeeping once you get into the IT industry, where often you may be on a team, and sometimes you have that one team member. I'm not saying that everyone is like this, but sometimes you will have that one team member who in the back of their mind, they're saying to themselves, oh, there's a lot of layoffs going on, which it is. And they may say that, okay, I'm the only one on my team that knows this application. And this application is something that the whole organization uses. So that way I'm for sure, I'm banking on that if something goes down, we need to lay off or something like that, I won't get laid off because I'm the only one that know this application. So sometimes you'll see people do that. Sometimes, Lee, you may be fortunate enough, like for me, the team I got on, or all the teams I was ever on, basically I didn't run into any kind of gatekeeping, where basically anything I wanted to learn, they would give me access. They would go down and train me on it. They would let me make the changes. When issues came up, they would kind of walk me through doing the troubleshooting, walk me through making the changes, walking me through managing that application. So, but this is one form of gatekeeping you may see in the IT industry. So the next thing I want to look at is, why would someone choose to gatekeep in the IT industry? So the very first reason I could come up with was fear of replacement. So basically, they want to hold back knowledge because they think that if you learn what I know, I'm no longer valuable. So basically, a lot of times, if it's something that they know that I'm the only one that knows how to manage this product, knows how to manage this technology, knows how to manage this application, I'm the one that's supporting it now. This is the main thing I support. So basically, if I train someone on this application to get them just as good as me, now I no longer have that leverage. So where if I want to go and get a pay increase, I no longer have that leverage anymore. So this is something that you see happens a lot, because, you know, you always hear of a lot of layoffs going on in the industry. So a lot of times people start to fear that, okay, I'm replaceable, so I need to learn something that's valuable that I can't be replaced on. So something that I'm the only one that knows it. I know it inside and out. So that way it's less likely that I would get laid off, or maybe I would get replaced. But like I said, it ain't 100% proof, but some people do have that mindset and do have that way of thinking. And then my second reason is they may have insecurity or imposter syndrome. So a lot of times they may be afraid that if someone else starts helping me manage this application, then they may realize that I don't know as much as I led off to know about this application. So you do have those cases also, to where someone's managing this application and they may be doing pretty good. They may be able to get by, but then once someone else starts looking at it and that person digs down deeper and kind of does more research than that original person that's supporting that application, a lot of times they may start to expose that, okay, this person ain't as good as I thought he was, or this person may not know as much about this application as I thought also. So sometimes people do have that insecurity or that fear that, okay, if this person starts helping me out, or if I start training this person, I'm afraid that they'll expose what I don't really know. You know, sometimes, like I said, they may not know that application as well as we thought they did. Quick pause. I'd like to introduce you to the Log Files. The Log Files is a weekly newsletter to help you start your IT career with practical advice and tips, powered by yours truly. So we started it in the beginning of the year. It's packed with actionable advice and resources to help kickstart your IT journey. The link is in the description as well as pinned in the comments. So don't miss out. Now back to the episode. So now that we looked at what gatekeeping is, why would someone choose to gatekeep? Now I think it's best to figure out, how can we get around this gatekeeping in the IT industry? So if this is happening to you, or if it's happening to someone you know, it's best to find a way to get around it. So one of the first things is to self-educate. So I believe in self-education, where if it's something that you can get training on, let's say if it's an application you're not able to manage, you don't have access to yet, but basically if you can get some training on it, it could be your employer could send you to get training on it. If you speak up and say, hey, I want to learn about this, we're already using it, so I found this training that I could go to help me know more about it. A lot of times, a lot of organizations will be open to that. Or if you can figure out some kind of way to do some self-study on it, so where you have a lab environment that you can go in and practice, and maybe there's some other tools and resources that you can use to get you up to par on this application. Because at some point in time, and like I said, it may come sooner than later, but at some point in time, there's going to be an issue with that certain application. There's going to be an issue with that application that's basically causing havoc in the organization. So it may be something that shuts your organization down, where, okay, we got to go on downtime for a couple of hours until this certain product get fixed or this certain application get fixed. But whenever that happens, you've already been doing some self-education, some things like that. So now you can go ahead, and when y'all are on the call and people are doing troubleshooting, trying to fix this issue, you can go ahead and have your input. You know, a lot of times, especially when you're on these calls and everyone's on the call and there's a widespread issue going on, sometimes when you do this, a lot of times if you're someone that's, let's say you're early in your career, I have seen it where you're early in your career and you speak up on what you may think a fix may be for an issue. Sometimes it gets looked over because most people see you as, oh, okay, he don't know the answer because this is his first year. So some people will think like that, and they will do that. I have it done to me plenty of times where, okay, I'm just coming into this role, so if there's an issue, you know, I don't have them call me, and I pick up the phone and say, yeah, hey, this Mike. And I don't have to say, hey, you need to put somebody else on the phone. And then I put someone else on the phone, and I'm in the background still figuring out what the issue is. So you'll have that go on a lot of times. But during this call, you know what I'm saying, you can speak up, let them know what you think the fix is. And a lot of times, if that end up being what fixes the issue, now you've kind of proven yourself to a lot of the upper people that's in your organization. To now they know that, okay, this guy's just starting out, but apparently this guy knows his stuff. So this guy knows his stuff. So they're going to start to call on you a little bit more. They're going to start to lean on you a little bit more. And like I said, this I think is real good because, you know, you're proving yourself. You know, you went out, figured out this application. You learned this application on your own. And then, like I said, all that hard work and everything, it starts to pay off for you once you're able to speak up and resolve an issue that was causing havoc in the organization. So now people know that, okay, this guy, hey, he knows his stuff. So if I have any issues, I don't mind contacting him first, because I may not be able to get access to or be able to just call up a senior engineer. They may be busy. So now if I'm going to reach out to this guy first and get his input on it, and then if I can't resolve it, then we'll move it on up. So self-education, I think, is one way to get around gatekeeping in the IT industry. So the second way to break through gatekeeping in the IT industry, I like to call this getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So basically, when you're just starting out in that position and there's that certain application you don't have access to, anytime that lead person, that lead engineer is working on that application or they're fixing an issue with that application, it's not going to hurt you to ask them plenty of questions on that application to kind of, we call it shoulder surfing, where basically they're fixing an issue, you're tagging along, looking at them fix this issue. So where, okay, most people ain't going to tell you, hey, nah, I don't want you to come with me to fix this issue, or I don't want you to look at me fix this issue. So most of the time you can lean over, ask questions, take notes. And this way, like I said, sometimes you may end up thinking you're asking a stupid question that don't make sense, but a lot of times you want to ask all questions. If it's a question in your mind, you want to make sure you ask it. So you're getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And then what goes along with that is taking on projects that stretch your skill set. So basically, there's projects where when you just start in a position, your supervisor or your boss may start getting you these kind of low-level projects at first where, okay, you're just doing this simple task on a couple of devices. Then from there, you know, you may start to get more projects that may be a little bit more harder. So this is where you can start to ask for those projects that you think is going to stretch your skill set. So if I've been doing a networking project where I'm only been making these slight configuration changes, and then another project comes up that, oh, we need to do this on this other network. So, okay, that might be something that I've never done before, but it's something that I know will stretch my skill set, will get me up to par, will move me to that next level. So that could be something that I ask for. Okay, let me take that project. And that way I can kind of build up my tolerance also, because like I said, each project, most of the time they'll be kind of along the same lines. And then sometimes you'll have some projects that may be a little bit more harder, something that maybe a engineer or a senior engineer probably would have ended up with if you hadn't volunteered for it. So, but like I said, take on projects that stretch your skills, and then also apply the roles even if you don't meet every bullet point. So a lot of times we all know that, especially if you're a veteran in this industry, we all know that most of the time when you're looking at different job descriptions, most job descriptions is going to have everything under the sun that you need to be able to do or that you need to be proficient in. So this is where you want to apply to those job roles, even if you don't meet every bullet point. So that's always been my stance on any kind of job. I look at the job description. If I meet about 3 or 4 of the bullet points out of 10, or maybe 3 or 4 of them out of 20, a lot of times I'm going to go ahead and still apply. So because most jobs, like I said, they're looking for a Superman, but they'll be happy with Clark Kent. I think it is named Clark Kent. Whoever Superman is before he was Superman. So a lot of times, like I said, you want to apply to these roles, even if you don't meet every bullet point. So like I said, because most of them, like I said, they put out a description. They want everything under the sun, but they also have room to settle for someone that knows the majority of it, but can learn the rest of it. So that's one thing. Another thing you could do to get out of gatekeeping in IT. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Hopefully you found some value in this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, you can follow me at DebtFreeinIT. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me at debtfreeinit@gmail.com, or you can visit me with debtfreeinit with Mike.com. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.